This September, we're going to cause large-scale material disruption to the supply of dairy, day after day, across the country.
We want to put the damage and exploitation of the dairy industry at centre stage.
It's time to demand a food system that puts justice first.
It's time to demand a food system that grows instead of destroys.
It's time to end dairy.
It's time for a plant-based future.
Hi, I'm Kat. I'm from Animal Rebellion. I'm about to go into Harrods. I'm about to pour all of the milk on the floor to convey that milk is destructive to the planet and cruel to animals. Oh wait, yeah, no.
Animal Rebellion protesters filmed themselves drilling through milk tires at Muller-Willenhall. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. Vegan activists just super glued and chained themselves to dairy lorries, causing 80,000 pounds worth of damage in a third day of protests before 32 people were arrested. The group says they use non-violent civil disobedience to call for a plant-based food system. Yeah, you know who else is calling for a plant-based food system? These guys, who they apparently don't like. We got Bill Gates and none other than Klaus Schwab. He happens to be the founder of the World Economic Forum, and he famously talks about the Fourth Industrial Revolution. And of course, you could forget the WEF is also the ones who came up with the idea for the Great Reset to, quote, improve the state of the world. And I'll remind you, ladies and gentlemen, that Bill Gates is still the largest private owner of farmland in the United States. Why is that, may you ask? Well, we will take a look at that in this video, but just in case you didn't know, I wanted to point out as well, Prince William is now one of the UK's biggest landowners, inside his $1 billion estate inherited after the Queen's death. So between the two of these guys, they own a lot of land and have a lot of pull when it comes to the farming global food supply chain moving forward in the future. And I think a lot of people can see what's coming down the pike, folks. That's why farmers are uprising globally in the fight for food freedom. As I pointed out in this video, let's grow! Farmers are protesting all across the Netherlands against the government's plan to curb nitrogen emissions. The Dutch have inspired Italian, Polish, and German farmers to take up their tractors in the battle for food freedom, and the movement is showing no signs of slowing down. And indeed, it's the same here in Canada, ladies and gentlemen. And the Trudeau government is now plowing ahead with their fertilizer cut while turning a blind eye to human suffering. That's right, Trudeau pushes ahead with fertilizer reduction, but the provinces and the farmers are crying foul. And while all these things are going on, guys, it's all culminating towards this. White House is readying to call an emergency decree as a nationwide rail strike looms. President Biden and senior administration officials are working with others in the transportation industry, including truckers, shippers, air freight, for contingency plans if a rail shutdown materializes at the end of the week, a White House official has told Bloomberg. Guys, so I think Politico here gets it fairly right, saying, get ready for a food fight. High grocery costs are here to stay, and I would add, it's not just here to stay, but things are about to get much, much worse as we continue into a time of hyperinflation and potential global recession. So we're going to talk about all of that, guys, and much, much more in this video. But before we do, real quickly, I just want to tell you about my friends at Patriot Gold Group, because I know this information resonates with you. I know you too can feel it at the grocery stores. The bills are going up and your purchasing power is remaining the same or going down. And I know you can see what's coming on the global stage when it comes to the destruction of the economy and the destruction of the dollar. I mean, I've been talking to experts who have all been telling me the same thing. Steve Forbes is telling me the same thing. Robert Kiyosaki is telling me the same thing. Peter Schiff is telling me the same thing. They're all saying that a crash is not just inevitable, it's actually happening right now. This is the beginning of it. And they all agree the best way to protect yourself in this time of hyperinflation and a hedge against what's coming is with precious metals like gold and silver. Traditionally, this has been the best way to go, especially in times of trouble like the times we see coming right now, ladies and gentlemen. And when you call that number on the screen, 1-888-270-8670, you will get connected with a free consultant, a guide who will help you set up a plan. If you want an IRA or a 401k, they do these backed by precious metals, literally backed by gold and silver. It's really, really awesome. And even if you have an existing IRA, they will roll it over for you. You may even be eligible for a free IRA for life if you call the number on the screen. And this is actually a phone number for preferred PFT viewers, where you'll get connected to a real person, a consultant. As I said, he's going to help you set up a plan. Guys, don't waste any time. Call the number today. It's free to call. If you don't want to talk to a real live person, you can just click on the link located in the description below. Just be sure to tell them that Press for Truth sent you, so you'll get that equal preferred treatment. And again, guys, don't hesitate. Call the number today, because as I said, we're coming down a time of global recession. The experts agree, and precious metals like gold and silver is the best way to hedge yourself against what we know is coming down the pike. So again, call the number on the screen and click the link in the description to talk to the guys at Patriot Gold Group today. All right, guys, we're going to start with the video that I showed you in the beginning, but let's kind of watch it together.
I used to believe that if something was legal, it was good, and if it was illegal...
Pull it back to the very beginning. Kind of creepy.
I used to believe that if something was legal, it was good, and if it was illegal, it was bad.
Again, this is the Animal Rebellion group who was going around poking holes in tires of trucks and dumping out milk in stores and doing all sorts of ridiculous nonsense that's going to disrupt the food chain. This is crazy.
But I've realized
listen to that.
That's not the truth.
There are some truly evil things happening in this country that are perfectly legal.
And there are good people locked up for exposing them.
By now, the climate emergency is hardly even news. We know industries are ravaging the earth.
We know meat and dairy.
No, we don't know that industries are ravaging the earth. The notion of man-made climate change is such debunked nonsense. It's just unbelievable that they haven't even apparently looked into the other side, or other they're just completely, totally brainwashed and cut off from even being able to understand it.
Is ravaging the earth.
And we know that our government is directly responsible for it.
The government is
Widespread
responsible.
crop failures, mass starvation, droughts, displacement.
For some of the world, it's not so severe yet.
For others, it's life or death. It's now.
So, what are you going to do?
From temperatures soaring in India to the severe droughts in East Africa.
Tens of millions are at risk of starvation as land turns dry, dusty and barren.
We're talking about the collapse of civilization here, and the government is using the people's money to keep funding these
That
destructive
dastardly
industries.
government.
Something has to change. It has to change now.
Our demands are simple. 1. The government must support...
Oh, isn't that interesting? Number one demand starts with the government must. This is the same girl talking right now who just finished saying this a little bit earlier.
Directly responsible for it.
Who?
Our government is directly responsible.
Let's hear it again.
The earth.
And we know that our government is directly responsible for
Our
it.
government is directly responsible. So, the number one call to action is... Our demands are simple.
1. The government,
The government
must
must do this. The very people who you admitted are the cause of the problem, you are looking to them to be the solution for the very problem that they created. You see, this is why in Canada, the protest movements that are followed, that Trudeau, for example, will show up to, are ones where the activists and protesters are asking the government for something, looking for them to be the nanny state, like these climate change activists and these vegan activists. They are essentially begging the government to do something for them, like the BLM activists. This is why Trudeau loves these guys and dislikes the freedom convoy movement because they have a totally different approach. They say, back off, leave me alone, I want nothing to do with you. And that's the biggest fear of the government, is those kinds of protesters who understand they need to disconnect, not ask for more favors and ask for handouts from the nanny state. So that's why these kind of movements are promoted and supported, and the freedom convoys are shut down because government wants that reliance on people. And it's all based on the false, climate change nonsense anyways. A couple of years ago, I put together a video called These 10 Things I Hold to Be True, Allow Me to Explain. And one of them was breaking down the false notion that climate change is man-made. And I broke down my thoughts into a couple of minutes. So really briefly, guys, I'll play that for you here now, just in case you haven't seen it before, but check it out.
The threat of climate change is a psychological operation being waged by elite globalists who seek to form a singular one-world government. Simply put, the science on man-made climate change is pseudoscience at best. And in fact, the IPCC, the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, was caught red-handed falsifying information and fudging the numbers to fit their narrative. In 2009, in the lead up to the Copenhagen Summit on climate change, a hacker hacked into the servers at the Climate Research Unit at the University of East Anglia. This hacker leaked thousands of emails exposing what became known as ClimateGate, and the fact that the world's top scientists and so-called experts in the field were colluding and fudging the numbers. But why would they do such a thing? Well, it turns out that the Copenhagen Summit in 2009 produced a treaty which openly calls for world government. This is the first time we've ever seen the words world government in a global treaty. And there are some at the UN who are using man-made climate change as an excuse to introduce this concept of the need for a world government. I covered this extensively in my video titled Lord Christopher Monckton, Climate Change and the New World Order. I'll leave a link in the description below for anyone who wants a more in-depth analysis. The bottom line is, man-made climate change is a lie designed to turn you into the enemy, who therefore needs to be regulated and controlled and united under their global umbrella. If you agree or disagree, you know what to do.
And indeed, please feel free to let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. But let's get into what exactly these guys have been up to here. Animal rebellion protesters filmed themselves drilling through milk truck tires at Müller-Willenhall. This is the moment that animal rebellion protesters stopped milk trucks leaving Müller's Black Country Depot by drilling through the tires. Activists are currently at the Willenhall site as part of their bid to disrupt the supply of dairy across the UK. Demonstrators also blocked access to Müller-Droitwich this morning, Tuesday, September 6th, by climbing onto trucks that were queuing to enter as the movement entered its third day of action. The Animal and Climate Group is campaigning for a sustainable plant-based food system. As I said, guys, interestingly enough, they're speaking out about the dangers of the milk industry, and I pointed out this a little while ago. Before there were baby formula shortage, Bill Gates was backing lab-grown breast milk. But they probably would favor and absolutely love this idea because it doesn't involve animals in any particular way. The group is urging the incoming Prime Minister Liz Truss to fulfill her self-label of environmentalist before it was fashionable, and to take a bold and positive action on climate change and ecological emergencies, begging the government to solve the problems that they say were created by the government. Supporters have reiterated their commitment to taking non-violent, direct action until progress towards their demands have been made. West Mercia police arrested 34 people during this protest. Officers said a significant number of people had gained unauthorized access to the site. Following the incident, the force's Assistant Chief Constable Richard Cooper said, "We respect the right to peaceful protest, but we will take proportionate action when the law is broken. Those who commit crimes while protesting will be dealt with fairly but robustly by West Mercia police." And of course, if you're going around, breaking property, destroying property, and don't even realize that this is potentially affecting the food chain, then you're just not only a moron, but you're a pretty big part of the problem here, which is why I wanted to expose it, and especially with what we see coming down the pike here in Canada. I mean, let's take a quick look at this. Provincial agricultural ministers are expressing frustration with the Trudeau government over plans to effectively reduce fertilizer use by Canada's farmers in the name of fighting climate change. A meeting of federal and provincial ministers wrapped up in Saskatoon on Friday, with several provinces saying they are disappointed. The federal government is looking to impose a requirement to reduce nitrous oxide emissions from fertilizers, saying it's a greenhouse gas contributing to climate change. While the Trudeau government says they want a 30% reduction in emissions, not fertilizer, farm producer groups are saying that at this point, reducing nitrous oxide emissions can't be done without reducing fertilizer use. Provinces were disappointed by the lack of flexibility in consultation regarding the federal target. So they're just steamrolling ahead with this, despite the fact that, farmers are quite literally warning them that this is going to be bad. This is going to lead to massive food shortages. And, as I said, all this is happening in the middle of a potential massive supply chain breakdown involving a rail strike that is currently looming. Guys, again, this is why we're going to look at this article. Get ready for the food fight. High grocery store costs are here to stay. As we see here, the administration is trying to understand what supply chains could be disrupted the most and how to utilize other forms of transportation to ensure that commodities and consumer goods continue to flow across the country. More than 100,000 railroad workers could walk off the job this Friday, guys, if freight rail companies and unions don't reach labor agreements. We noted that 29% of all freight moves on the rails. Half of that is cargo is bulk commodities like energy, food, chemicals, metals, and wood productions. And the other half is shipping containers filled with consumer goods. Now, this is costing the economy $2 billion a day, potentially, in supply chain disruptions should this take place. So the Biden administration has held talks with all the freight companies and the unions. They're trying to avert this, guys. I'll put a link to all of this in the description below. But as they explained, this would strike the economy with $2 billion per day and result in supply chain disruptions for shipments and commodities such as grain, fertilizer, and energy, along with consumer goods. And if you look at the top things that are being shipped in the rails, you got corn, wheat, soybean, all reaching number one, guys. Again, that's why this article is sort of getting it right, but they're a little off the mark because I think they missed the fact that this is on a trajectory of getting much, much worse. As we see here, gas prices are down, providing a boon for Democrats in November, but food prices remain sky high, giving Republicans an opening to keep inflation a top of mind issue in the midterms. The price of food at the grocery stores is expected to increase by up to 11% this year, with the cost of beef, poultry, milk, eggs, and fruit driving the surge. Prices could shoot even higher, with droughts affecting crops and a potential rail workers strike halting shipments needed for both food and crop production. So the government's latest consumer price index report, released on Tuesday, shows that overall food prices continue to rise by 0.8% in August, and that's slightly down from the month before, but food prices are up 11.4% for the year. That's the largest yearly increase since 1979, folks. Overall, the inflation measure remained high, rising by 0.1% in August, although the price of gas has continued to decrease. And again, I will put links to all of this stuff located in the description below, guys. But I wanted to point out that while we're facing a potential crisis with a nationwide rail strike, and while the Trudeau government is threatening to reduce food production by cutting down emissions in Canada, you got these vegan activists going around in the U.S. also trying to destroy milk production facilities. Things are getting crazy and out of hand. And what an opposite kind of reaction that these people are having from what some similar things that happened way back in Canada back in 2015. You want to talk about the fight for milk? Remember this raid that ended in a standoff because raw milk fighters were fighting back I put this one out, 2015. The Ontario Ministry of Agriculture and Food strikes again, protecting people from themselves. Because, heaven forbid, somebody voluntarily decides to drink raw milk. Raw milk, that is unpasteurized milk, is illegal to buy and sell in Ontario, but that hasn't stopped Michael Schmidt and his farming crew from defying this blatant violation of self-ownership and property rights. And that's exactly what we need to do, guys. Shift the focus away from begging the government to please fix this for us, and shift that focus into taking the responsibility upon ourselves to eventually set ourselves up with a self-sustainable lifestyle. Not reliant on the governments, not reliant on the banks, and not even reliant on the grocery stores. Now, I know that sounds easier said than done. For a lot of people, that is going to involve getting out of debt. And I know if you have multiple credit cards and mortgages and a line of credit, it's very daunting. But getting out of debt is absolutely number one key. And if you can manage to figure out how to do that, guys, you need to start focusing on having that self-sustainable lifestyle. That is the ultimate enemy of the government. As I said, they are not looking for people who are fully self-independent and can be completely living on their own. They want to be the nanny state, and they're looking for the people who are begging for them to offer any solution to any problem that, as I said earlier, is always created by them. It's just absolutely crazy, guys. So just wanted to bring all of that to your attention today. Guys, considering what we know is coming down the pike, it's not just coming, it's literally, as I said, happening right now. Don't forget to check out my friends at Patriot Gold Group. Again, you call that number on the screen, you're going to get connected to a free consultant, a guide who will help you set up a plan. It literally costs you nothing to call the number or click the link below. Just tell them Press for Truth sent you, and you'll get that preferred treatment. So that's all for today, guys. Once again, I just want to thank you so much for tuning in. Don't forget to click that thumbs up button. Share this video with your friends and family who you think need to see it the most. And stay tuned. We're going to have more video reports coming very soon. This is Dan Dix reporting for Press for Truth.
We all want truth. The truth will set you free.